This is Groove Talk with Froggy Style.
So would you mind just kind of introducing yourself just for the recording?
Sure, yeah. My name is Jay Sarrazin. Most people know me as The Beard, and I am the singer and guitar player for DECATUR.
Awesome. So would you mind giving us kind of a little background information on the band?
Yeah, sure. We kind of started mid-album, to be honest with you, because we had started our debut record that we were recording under a different name because we were playing in a different band at the time. I had an old band that I was touring with, and all the guys that are in DECATUR were helping me out, coming out on tour with me, playing my old stuff. And we loved playing together so much. We were like, man, we want to write a new record. And I got a cool opportunity through a good friend of mine, Taylor, to be able to go to Brooklyn and work with Joe Duplantier from Gojira on a record, which was something I was kind of trying to get from him for a little bit because I knew that they were opening up a studio called Silvercourt Studios up in Brooklyn. So we kind of jumped at the chance to do that. And while we were there, we were recording under my last band's name, but we decided that the sound was completely different than anything that we were doing. So we basically tried to start something fresh, I guess you would say, start a new band. That way we could just do our own kind of thing and start a new trend for ourselves.
So the album coming out on Friday, this is going to be the first album under this band name.
That's correct, yeah. It's called Better Than Brooklyn, and it's, our debut record.
Cool. So you guys are also about to embark on a really, like, a huge cross-Canada tour here.
Right.
So I guess what kind of goes into planning something like that?
Well, we are a self DIY band, I guess you would say. You know, we do everything ourselves. So I basically started booking this tour like almost 4 months ago, reaching out to promoters and just kind of putting a feeler out with the record and just seeing where we could go, how we could go. And we got some cool help from a guy, Joey, from Journeyman Productions. He was helping us out for the West Coast. And I basically reached out to all the contacts that I had made touring with my last group. And, you know, when you're touring through Canada, it's such a small scene. So you make friends really quick. And, yeah, they were all super happy to bring my new band out. And so we actually ended up landing almost 20 gigs, I think 22 gigs or something. So we're super excited, man. Like every city that we can go to that's available to us, and we're coming hard. We've been cooped up in our jam room for like the last year, so we're super excited. We had a couple things to change on the record late, so we've been kind of just waiting to unleash, and we're ready to go.
Awesome. So I guess how did this record come together?
I think, you know, again, it was kind of different situation for us. We weren't going in as a new band. We were going in to record the fifth record of my old band. And I think just spending the time together living in Brooklyn, because, you know, we're from Toronto and we did this record in Brooklyn. So we were there 24 hours a day. We were sitting out there and hanging out there the whole time and living in like a nice little brown house out there. So, we were basically kind of becoming like family out there, like spending time together that much, 24 hours a day for that long. We were there for about 6 weeks. So, I mean, you get to learn a lot about the guys, and we just became so close that we knew, like, we wanted to play music for a long time together, and we were really excited to start something new because of that. And that's kind of how the album came together. It was just like, we want to start a new group. You know, it's kind of odd that a bunch of guys in their 30s are ready to start a new band. Usually, you know, they've been in a band for such a long time, but we all left our groups to form this group together, and we just felt something special. So we knew the album had to come out.
Awesome. So I guess what's kind of what was one of your favorite parts about putting this album together?
Well, definitely working with Joe and the Silvercord Studio team. You know, Taylor, Bingley, Johan Mayer, and Joe Duplantier were like so accommodating, so helpful for us. You know, Joe's such an artist. It's hard to find someone who has that kind of depth of knowledge in music. So being able to sit beside him, use some of the equipment that he used on some of his records that I grew up listening to, you know, because I was a big Gojira fan. It was really cool, you know, like I'm standing there with the earphones from The Way of All Flesh on my head, you know, like it's crazy, you know. So I think working with someone that I respected so much and other guys, a part of his team that I respect so much and have so much knowledge for what they do, is just like probably the greatest learning experience I ever had. And, you know, our group is super focused on growing and learning all the time. So, yeah, I think that was the best part, man, getting to work with a Class A team like that. And, you know, it definitely shows on the record, you know. We're a bunch of nobodies, but they treated us like we were Metallica, you know, when it comes to, like, our product. So I think that was the best part of it.
Awesome. So how did you kind of connect with Joe then?
Well, it's funny because my friend Taylor, one of the guys I mentioned, I used to work with him when I was working in a band called Anvil. They're like a Canadian legendary band. And I was touring with them by doing some work. I was teching for their guitar player and singer Lips and doing merchandise and driving the band and loading and unloading, like just basically being a road guy for them. And this guy Taylor was tour managing them at the time. So, you know, again, you're on the road 24 hours a day in a van, like 2 feet from each other, and we just became best buddies. And so, yes, and then a couple years into it, he got the promotion for the Gojira gig and became the Gojira tour manager. So, you know, we didn't get to spend as much time working together anymore, but anytime he came around, I always went to see him and hang out with him when he was in town or wherever town we were both in. And obviously, you know, that was where I started to meet Joe and talk to Joe. And I think, like, it was mostly just, like, walking, handshakes, hey, what's up kind of thing until Heavy T.O. 2012, I believe. That's when I kind of actually got to talk to Joe a little bit and get to know him a bit. And same with the rest of the guys from Gojira. And I did some help for Taylor that show. It was, like, pouring rain, so I was helping him try to calm the ship down. But, yeah, it was a great time, man. And that's kind of where my relationship with Joe kicked off. And, you know, like I said, he's such a sweet guy. So it wasn't easy to kind of become good buddies in that quick period of time. So it luckily worked out that way for us.
Okay, cool. So since you said this was going to be the fifth album from a previous band, but you kind of restarted it, you know, rehashed it and everything. So, like, what have you learned maybe from previous albums and releasing previous albums that you kind of applied to this album?
The biggest thing I could say, for sure, and it's like without a doubt, was patience. You know, I was so used to recording a record within 3 weeks and putting it out there the week after it was done, you know, like doing no PR on it, no promo for it, just like, oh, if we keep playing, people will get it and they'll dig it. You know, we took a significant business approach this time, really worked on adding PR to our repertoire and adding a lot of things to our repertoire. And, you know, trying to not just be satisfied with the first thing that came back. You know, we dove into depth in the songs, in the tone, in the music, in the recording, in the sound of the recording, in the volumes of things, in the mastering, adding things. We thought the record was done 3 times. You know, we finished the record, we thought it was over. Then we were like, no, we got the master back, and we're like, it's not done. It's just not done. We got to do more solos. We got a couple more pieces. Went back, re-recorded some stuff. So, you know, our patience was the biggest lesson for us, I think, where we said, this time we're going to put out a record where not just like 1 or 2 of us is like, yeah, this is great. Like, where everybody's going to think, yeah, this is something. And putting that effort and time in, it felt for us like that was what we accomplished when we were in the studio and we were finishing things up this year. It was like really adamant to us that taking that time was super imperative to it. You know, in our scene in Canada, like, people are so fast to put things out. You know, like, it just drops. Like, they're putting an album out, you hear about it, then it's out, and they're doing something, then they're putting a new one out again, and people were just on us nonstop. Like, when you guys putting this record out, but we just held strong in the fort between the four of us and said, no, we want to make the right decision every time, that this is going to go out the right way this time. And so patience, I think, is the best thing we learned.
Okay, cool. We definitely kind of live in, you know, I guess kind of a single society, you know, people are really singles nowadays. They don't really, So, like, how important was it for you to kind of make a cohesive album?
That was the focus.
Yeah.
Right from the get-go, we didn't want to write a single. Like, we have a single on the record, and actually the song we wrote for a single on the record didn't make it as a single. So that goes to show you, you know, like, for us, you know, we don't put a lot of weight into that. You've seen a lot of bands who take, like, an album's worth of greatness and slam it into one song, and then the album sucks. They have one killer song, you hear it, the video premieres, the song comes out, you're like, holy crap, that's amazing. And then you go buy the album and you're like, meh. It's like, it's either the same thing every song, or it just doesn't live up to what the first song was. Our goal was to give a different look, a different taste, a different style, a different feel on every song. You know, kind of the old school Dimebag Darrell, Pantera, like, mentality, like, give them the Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors, you know, like, that was the goal. We didn't want to just be like, well, this is the kind of band we are. This is what we do best, so let's just do that. We were focused on pushing our own boundaries, pushing our own limits and, like, comfort zones, and trying to be more than what we know we are. And, you know, like, just, that was kind of like the mindset that we had going for it. You know, we're in an immediate world, like, you know, like you were saying, like, we're in a world of singles. We're in a world of, like, where it's got to drop today and it's got to be again tomorrow. You know, it's like everyone has access to everything so easily now that kind of, you know, if you're not running in the game, you might get run over sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Would you say that, because I feel like that's largely the biggest response, that's largely in response to technology, you know, because of social media and YouTube and stuff like that. So
Absolutely.
would you say that maybe, do you think technology is a positive for the music industry or a negative?
You know, I think it's like one of those things that just depends on how you use it. You know, if you overuse anything, it's bad, you know, and we're at a stage, I think, where we're overusing the internet, where people are just constantly on their phones or constantly with their head in the computer or, you know, an app, or, you know, we've lost, like, when I was growing up, I was a kid just before all this tech boom happened, you know, before cell phones were in everybody's pocket. And, you know, so for me, like, I truly appreciated going to a record store to find a record that I heard was coming out. And I heard it because I read a magazine that I had a subscription to, you know, like, I didn't read it on Facebook or, you know, so, I mean, I think there's a sense of, you know, pride in music from that era where you're doing that. And today I think it's like, it's not that it's too easy to get the record, because that's good. That is good. It's good for people to get your music, but it's flooded with so many things and it's easy to get lost in there.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you play an honest game as a musician or even a business person, whatever, you lose out to the dudes who aren't doing it the honest way, or the, you know, because it's just the way the technology goes, it's just the way the world works, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
But just, we got to go to bed at night, you know, so that's why we do it the way we do it. And but it is good, you know. It definitely gets you able to be anywhere without any kind of label or anything like that. So that's definitely good sometimes. I think we're kind of maybe trying to trend back into the right direction, but who knows?
Yeah.
Only the future will tell, I guess.
Yeah. So I guess, have you guys kind of started to see that your patience pay off?
You know what? I would like to say yes, because people say like, oh, you'll be forgotten about, but in our area, like in our scene, people haven't forgotten about us. They bug us all the time. When's it coming out? So I mean, nobody's. I think if you're good at what you do, people will wait for it. And hopefully people think we're worth waiting for. Like I can't. Everyone's got a taste. There's a lot of bands I used to say, oh, I don't like this band, or I don't like this band, or I like this band, but I just like changed my mind 10 years later. 10 years later, I like the band that I didn't like, and you know what I mean? So I think it's just like, it's going to be for some people. It's not going to be for some people. It's a little bit away from what heavy metal is right now. Heavy metal is like on the mentality of like extreme heaviness and shredding solos and guttural vocals and just like as intense as you can get. And like, that was just not our approach. Our approach was like, probably like, we want to write, a real record, like something that's going to hold the stand of time.
Like definitely, I would definitely say that your guys' sound is more gravitates towards kind of a classic metal vibe. It's
Definitely.
not like the intense growly vocals. It's more like something like Metallica or
or Slayer. Yeah,
definitely.
That was we grew up on that. That's my childhood was like Pantera, Slayer, Metallica. Like that's what I did. Like I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
But it's just something about those bands that are just special, and you can have, One and Blackened on the same record, and back then it was okay. For some reason it's not okay today. I don't know why that is, but we're of the mentality of like, no, like, let's make it back to that being okay. Of course I can have different spectrums, of what I think is heavy and not heavy and whatever. And I think that's kind of what we wanted to write, something we love, and not just like write for what's cool right now. And just for us, it was like, it's easy to go find a guy who can shred 1 million notes a minute and blast beat all day and scream as low as you can. It would be easy to do that. And like, that's just kind of not what we're about,
Yeah. So, like, since it sounds like at least you've been in the metal scene for quite some time now. So, how have you kind of seen it? How have you seen it change over the years?
Oh, it's kind of tough because I think the first 10 years I was playing live shows from the age of like 13. So, like, the first 10 years, I think I had a warped vision of what music industry was. Where I thought like music and talent and things of that nature, like artistic things mattered, but it's a business, And I think I learned that down the long road. Like, it took me a long time. I didn't want to maybe believe it, but for like almost basically the last 10 years, I've been thinking to myself in that mentality, and it's definitely grown. But when the internet came full force and everything hit so easily accessible, it hurt the scene because people don't want to go out to figure it out anymore. When I was a kid, I was going to shows, local shows, just because the show was happening. I didn't know who was playing. I didn't know what band was going to be there. I didn't know who was going to be there. And I'd show up and there'd be 100 kids in the house and the place would be packed, and there'd be like 10 killer bands that they're like, would be like freaking, I saw like so many good bands that never made it out of the scene, Yeah. So it's heartbreaking because you learn fast when you see that, like, oh, this guy's band's amazing. Why aren't they doing anything? Why are they still in Toronto? But there's just such a business aspect to it. So I think that was like what we learned the most. Like, again, back to the PR and back to doing things the right way, business wise. Not giving into our needs and desires as artists, but to be able to meet halfway.
Yeah, for sure. So what would you, like present day you, what piece of advice would you give to maybe 13-year-old you who was just starting out in bands?
I would say probably just like know that it's a business. Start with the mentality of a business, and just don't stop. Like, honestly, man, I've been working in this scene for almost like for 17 years, and I've honestly probably spent the last 10, busting my ass to get stuff going and literally working super hard. I don't stop, so,
yeah.
And I'm by no means at any huge level. So it just goes to tell you, and I'm working full-time job to support the money, the tens of thousands of dollars that we're dropping into the band. That money's got to come somewhere. So you work all day long, all week long, and then dump all that money into, your band. And so I would say when you have the opportunity young, to start learning it as a business and learning how to do that, the music part is good. Learn how to write songs maybe as well, instead of just like playing cool riffs. Because when for me, man, I do a lot of the songwriting for us. Like, I'm not listening to metal when I learn about songwriting,
Yeah.
I listen to like the Eagles or Elton John or, the Beatles. Like, I listen to bands that write songs to learn how to write songs.
Yeah.
I learned metal riffs to play metal riffs, but, I would say don't just pay attention to like the style of music you're doing. Broaden yourself to try to see what the worth is in everything, even if it is, Justin Bieber, even if it is, Sheryl Crow, like just try to look at music and see like what it is that's making that something special.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that you kind of incorporate a lot of, different styles into your music?
Yeah, that's our thing, that's kind of, people used to say to us all the time, like, music industry folks, oh, like you guys are close, but you don't know who you are yet, but it's funny to us because like we know exactly who we are, and we're a bunch of guys that all four of us love so many different things in music, and like it's not just metal, it's not just rock and roll. We listen to the blues, and we listen to pop, and we listen to country, and we listen to dance music, and we listen to rap, and we listen to all that because we just love music, and music gives different feelings in so many different ways. And so, you shouldn't be limited to what, creates that emotion coming out of you. If it makes you feel good or, makes you happy or makes you sad, or that gets out, then you should be able to be into it. You don't have to just like, you shouldn't have to like not like Justin Bieber if you like Metallica, or Beyonce if you like In Flames, like you should be able to like whatever you want. And I think that's our goal as a band. It's like we should be able to play whatever we want.
Yeah.
Maybe today I don't feel like massacring a crowd with pure death metal. Maybe today I feel like playing something a little more rock and roll. Maybe I want to pop a couple beers and have a good time with some people. Like who knows?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I think that's our goal, like let's try to, we love metal. Like metal's our bread and butter. We all love it, and that's why we play it. So we always try to take just like things of pop or things of whatever and just add a little influence to what we do.
Yeah. And I mean, like at the end of the day, good music is good music, right?
Exactly, and you shouldn't like a band because they sound like someone else. You should just try to like the band for what they are,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think that was a big thing with, Chester Bennington, when that whole thing went down with Linkin Park, people were hating on him for what they were doing. And he was just trying to express like, like this is my life and my music and my art. Like I should be able to express myself, the way I like. You don't got to buy the record,
Yeah.
Don't buy the record then. That's all, like it's that easy. It's like, but you don't got to hate on it, just be like, cool, that's not for me and that's for them. Awesome,
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like there's a big difference between constructive criticism or critiquing something and just hating on it because you don't like it,
Yeah, we're in a world of hate, man. Seriously. Like literally constant problems going on in the world, and we're in a situation now where people are just like trying to step on you to get ahead when we could all really just get ahead, if we all work hard and You know, like our scene is like that sometimes. Where if you're not part of the cool club you're not going to get the shows that you need, and you know, and we're definitely never been part of the cool kids club. You know, like we've always been outsider dudes, all four of us. So I mean, like, I think if we all just kind of, I don't know, you know, took a page from the Beatles, like all we need is some love, and we could all raise up. You know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So is there any place in particular that you're really looking forward to playing?
You know what? I've toured Canada,
Yeah.
coast to coast, a bunch of times, and every city kicks ass. But there's something about Alberta that I really love.
Yeah.
You know, Calgary is one of my favorite places in all of Canada. But and Montreal, I'm actually from Montreal. I'm born in Montreal, born and raised in Montreal. So we always end our tour in Montreal. Like every time I go on tour, I always make sure that Montreal is my final stop. I just always feel like I'm home there, and I get to see some old friends and some old family, and that's probably my the last night of the show, or the last night of the tour is always in Montreal, so I can let go because I'm just not a stress ball for the whole tour. Trying to make sure everything goes smooth and everything works out good, and connecting with everybody and making sure everything's on time. And so when I get to Montreal, I know A, I'm home, and B, tour's over, so I can have a good time.
Awesome. So are there any kind of just final things you want to say?
Well, first, thanks, man, for having us. I really appreciate it. You know,
Yeah.
that's super awesome, and we hope to see everybody on the road. We're coming to kill, so hope you guys can all get down and check out some good old-fashioned metal.
Awesome. Well, thank you.